Hello, I'm Todd Phillips, the editor of Canadian Auto Dealer. We're joined here today with David Adams, the president of the Global Automakers of Canada. Now, David, extraordinary times. The OEMs are struggling and trying to navigate their way through, and dealers as well. So, can you bring us up to speed of how OEMs are reacting to COVID-19 and what we might see in the near future?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, it's unprecedented times for everybody, and that the challenge really is, I think for dealers and for OEMs, it's business continuity. And I think what we've seen is a lot of the OEMs. If you look across North America, for instance, they've pretty much shut down their manufacturing facilities. One, out of an abundance of caution for COVID, but I think also to recognize the fact that in this type of environment, they don't need to be making cars because there's not a lot of cars being sold at the moment. And, I think that represents a challenge for both the dealers and the OEMs. How do you keep your business going in a situation where the big ticket item, there's a bunch of social interaction normally associated with purchasing a car. And, people are not, very concerned about their ongoing financial circumstances and also concerned about going out in public.
And for OEMs, we've seen some evidence that some of them are being recruited even on the manufacturing side, I guess, to produce things like ventilators and other
Sure.
things. So I guess the OEM community is trying to do its bit. I'm sure we'll see a wave of incentives, probably the likes of which we've never seen before once the economy does restart. So as a time, I guess, what are your members doing? Some of the initiatives that they're looking to.
Well, and I got to give General Motors credit, not one of our members, but General Motors has reached out to the broader OEM community and have indicated they were looking to try and basically coordinate supply of any, personal equipment for hospitals, what have you, from wherever, and get that all organized and structured so it could all be sort of sent out from a central site, a couple of central sites. From our members' own perspective, I know a number of our members, Toyota, for instance, Honda, some of the others have donated whatever N95 masks they happen to have on hand and other equipment to local hospitals and that sort of thing as well. So, I think it really is about sort of trying to do whatever they can to assist with the situation that's ongoing. And I think more will be brought to bear as time goes by. But I think on the parts sector too, we've seen companies like Linamar and Martin Ria that have been kind of rejigging their own manufacturing capabilities to try and facilitate assistance to the emergency and the healthcare workers.
Okay. And one thing we touched on just regarding sort of incentives when the economy that does kick in again, I guess is, nobody knows what that'll look like, but I'm sure the OEMs will have inventory to move. Dealers will be trying to make that happen. Hopefully, that'll play a part stimulating the economy. What do you anticipate seeing in the short term?
Well, I think there's one of the challenges that we spent a lot of time last week on was just trying to appreciate, well, what does the new reality mean for both OEMs and dealers? And different provinces have different, obviously, pieces of legislation in place now, emergency measures acts, and those sorts of things. And then that leads everybody down the path of, well, what is an essential service? And are motor vehicle dealers an essential service? And if so, is that on the sales side or on the service side as well? And I think we would argue that certainly on the service side, dealers are an essential service from the perspective of providing consumers with ongoing recalls, ensuring that doctors and emergency providers and healthcare workers have vehicles that are operational and aren't experiencing challenges. That people that have lease renewals, if possible, can still be brought into the dealership and have some form of that's more on the sales side conducted, but still those types of activities. So it's been a real challenge to sort of venture into that area that we haven't had to venture into before, to find out, okay, well, what exactly is going on in each province. And for a while last week, that was changing on almost a daily basis as different provinces updated their measures that they were putting in place. I think on the incentive side, it's probably a little bit too early to guesstimate what that might look like. But clearly, I think there's going to be a push or a surge, I think, in terms of both dealers and OEMs wanting to get back to business as usual, if that's possible, and looking to try and make up a little bit for the time that's been quite a challenge, and who knows how long it's going to last under the COVID environment here.
One last question, David, on when the economy does resume, a lot of industries will be lobbying the federal government for a variety of supports and help, and will have ideas about how their sector was impacted. So I guess post this, I'm sort of looking down the road a bit. I'm sure the auto industry, much like with the renegotiated NAFTA, did get together and spoke with one voice about what was needed. So you imagine your members must already be thinking in the days and months ahead, what are we looking for from government, who have really stepped up on the individual side to help provide income supports and such, but I'm sure we'll need a more coordinated plan again for our industry, and you anticipate those talks in the months ahead too.
Yeah, I do, and what those look like, I think, remains to be seen. But I personally sort of think the things that would have the most resonance with government are also things that are consistent with some of their other, public policy objectives, which would be things like addressing climate change and that sort of thing. So one of the items that has been talked about, within industry broadly, both at the dealer level and at the manufacturer level, has been the notion of some sort of structured scrappage program, in terms of getting the older vehicles off the road, which has a twofold impact in terms of stimulating demand for newer vehicles, and also getting the heavier polluters off the road. So that's one notion, but I think there are lots of other things for consideration, and I think at this point it's probably too early to guess what those things might be. But we do anticipate that we're going to have probably a fairly fulsome dialogue with federal and in some cases the provincial governments going forward to see what can we do to try to bring business back to normal, or as normal as can be expected, given the situation we're in now.
Well, I appreciate it, David. One thing is obviously some of our questions we're looking forward into the future, but that's something that we're trying to do as well. Obviously, there's not much people can do in the here and now. We're all in our home offices and just trying to sort of ride it out. But there does need to be start the thinking, I guess, in terms of what that looks like next. And I know organizations like yours will be at the forefront of helping navigate that. So I appreciate your time today.
No, thanks very much, Todd. Appreciate it.
Okay, that's it. Signing out.